Hi, guys, and welcome back to Interact's Grow podcast. I am back as your host. My name is Jessmyn Solana. I know I've been gone for a while, but here we have everyone with us today. Damaris, Jackie, Jesy, and Josh. Thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun. I know I said this last week, but I had so much fun listening to the episodes as a listener and not somebody a part of the podcast. It really is such a different experience. And it's just like, I don't know, for me, it's funny because I talk to you guys all the time. So it really felt like I was on a call with you, even though I was on the plane like 30,000 feet or whatever 1,000 feet you are in the air when you're in an airplane. But anyway, good to be with you all today. And for those who are listening, we have been talking a lot about AI, and I feel like it sprinkles in to every single one of our episodes because we now are using it as a part of our tool set with our customers. So I thought it would be super interesting to talk to our listeners and our audience about how to be a service provider who uses AI in their own businesses. So for those who are listening, we will probably use obviously our own examples of how we use it with Interact AI, but hopefully you'll be able to relate it back to your own business in terms of, how do you interact with your customers and your clients, where to use it, how to use it, and all that good stuff. So I guess first and foremost, I kind of want to cover this point of using AI as a tool for your client projects. I think when we initially talked about AI and how it's come up as like a big player in the game, a lot of it was about 10xing your content, using it like for your social media captions, for your blog posts, video scripts, all that good stuff. But if you're a service provider, you could also use the tool as a way to help you with your client projects. And that's what we do here. So I kind of wanted to open it up to sort of like what our experience has been like working with clients. Josh, I know you did a whole lot of work in figuring out what the prompts should be in terms of, how we use it. And then for us, it's kind of figuring out, okay, well, what do we need to ask the customer in order to figure out how to use the tool and make the quiz?
I can jump in actually, if that's helpful, and kind of like
Yes.
start with where we started because you all took it and ran with it from the point where I got it to initially. So maybe I'll jump in and do that first. Um, I thought about it a lot, and basically what I did is imagine like the process of building a quiz is like this little like bounty ball, like it's very dense. It's like the start of a star or something, and then when you unpack that, it explodes. And it's like there are a million elements that go into building a quiz. And that's why it's so freaking complicated to do and why it's always been a struggle for us and for our customers to build quizzes. Because it's like you break it down by sentence. And then by sentence, you break it down into the first half of the sentence and the back half of the sentence. And then you have an intention with each sentence that goes into a quiz, and a quiz is composed of, I don't know, 100-ish sentences on average. And so that's what I did. I like took it down to that level of like what is happening in every single sentence in each word, because that's how the AI works. Like the AI thinks like that. So I basically tried to think like the AI thinks and then combine that with how we uniquely at Interact make quizzes, because we have our own way of making quizzes. Other people's might be different. Ours has been developed over the last 10 years. You all have contributed to it now. It's kind of like it is Interact quiz. Like it is our team and how we see marketing and how we see lead gen after doing this for a decade. And as you all have joined, you've put your unique spin on that. So I took all of that and like exploded the star and then put it back together so that the AI could emulate how we make quizzes. And that's how far I got it. And then I handed it off. So maybe you guys can jump in and talk about what we've done since then.
I love the exploding star analogy. That was very descriptive. Thank you. I guess I can
Of
jump in.
course.
I was one of the first that Josh sort of trained into helping us start building quizzes. As long as I think Jessmyn and Jesy and Jackie and all of you guys did too. I think it's evolved since we've started. And now we've just gotten better and better at dissecting what our customers need. Um, we all have a unique process of how we do that. Each person that helps create these interact quizzes or interact AI quizzes, however you want to call them. And I think when it comes down to like having a successful quiz that a customer likes, it's really a matter of when you, the listeners, fill out the form and we ask you certain questions in the form to be able to identify what you're looking for or what ideas you currently already have, like predetermined in your head. And then my process is, I look at the website if you have one, sort of get an idea of what you're currently offering, what your current like brand voice is. And I really start working with the prompts and feeding that into the AI and try to make it sound as close as possible to how you would sound in your business and the outcomes. If you guys haven't sent us some already with an email, which is very helpful, by the way, when you do that,
Mhm.
then the AI tool will create some based on what we feed it, like the website's information or your idea of what your offerings are, or whatever the case is. Every customer is different. So that's sort of like to get us started. I don't know if any of you guys have any additional input you want to sort of add to that.
Yeah, I'll go. I was just thinking about how when we first started using AI for building quizzes and for helping all our customers, we started with a few simple prompts and, a few simple back and forth via email. And I feel like now we've gotten to the point where we all kind of get a better sense of what AI is good for and how we can use it to help our customers versus what it's not at so good at. So I don't know if you guys all agree, but from my experience, I felt that it has been a great way to kind of help customers brainstorm ideas. Like maybe we don't hit the nail on the head with the first few outputs, but if I can give them 10 ideas, then we can make something from that idea. So I think it's just been a really good kind of starting point to like a rough draft. It might not always like be exactly right away, but it like takes out so much of the brainstorming time, which I think has been huge.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think I'll just add to that, the more that we've played around with these AI prompts, I've not even played around with just using them. I feel like I've gotten much more comfortable in editing the responses that ChatGPT is giving me, as opposed to asking ChatGPT to redo or like, rephrase what it's saying. For example, sometimes I'll put in, and the prompt very clearly says, write the question in the form, write the title in the form of a question. Sometimes it doesn't do that. And so in the beginning, I was like, oh, well, I have to figure out how to get AI to do that. And so I would, rewrite this in the form of a question or whatever I would have to do it. But now the more and more you play with it, it's just so much easier to like exude your own energy, right? Like I'm like, oh, well, if this was me talking or making this quiz, then I would just rephrase that into this type of question, right? So I think that is something that's definitely happened, where you can see where AI has gaps or like is missing certain things that we know to be beneficial in your quiz. And so rather than forcing AI to rephrase it, you can just do it yourself. So I've definitely become much more comfortable in that. And then the other thing that I don't think we were doing right away was translating quizzes. And that's something that we've never been able to do before, especially with our quiz templates. Like you would have to translate the quiz template into your own language. But now, after we write the quiz in English so that we know that it's a quality quiz, we can just have it translated into your local language and then build the quiz for you in any language, even though we don't speak it. So I think that's a really cool use case and a way to help more customers using AI. I feel like that was a super important point to bring up, that if you are using it in your own business as a tool to help your clients or your customers, like making sure you still do that extra step of double checking, is this quality? Like, is this good quality? And knowing what you know about your customer, if you're working one-on-one with them, that would be even better, right, than if you're working with like 10 people at a time, but you are able to kind of understand, oh, did this pop out exactly what I wanted it to in their voice, in the way they would say it? Or, how do I tweak this to make sure that when I produce this as like a finished product to them, they're happy?
Yeah. I want to just add too, and I just thought of this right now. I think that when you're thinking of quizzes, just like Josh was saying, it can be a completely like strategic, specific process. But a lot of the times, and this may be helpful for whoever is listening out there, when I look at somebody's website and I have no idea what you really currently truly do in your business, but I just look at it as sort of like a high level, as a customer perspective, like I'm going to this person's website. Overall, what are you offering? As a business owner, like look at your website and just say, overall, what is the message that I'm giving to my audience, whoever goes into my website, and what am I offering to them? And it really just could be as easy as whatever you're seeing on your page, whatever services or products or questions you're currently seeing on your page, that's probably what you should be making your quiz about, and it's just giving you guys here, whoever's listening, a different perspective of somebody that's outside looking into your website. That's really what we're looking for. Main points of what you are already talking about, what you are already offering, what services you currently already have. Sometimes I think our customers get super wrapped up in like specific sales pages or specific offerings. You can do that later. You don't really have to worry about that right when you're making the quiz. So I just wanted to sort of add that.
That
Yeah,
actually
I
kind
mean,
of leads, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Josh, because I was going to say that just kind of leads into my next question, which is like, how do you ask the right question so you make sure that you produce the same quality each time for each customer?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I'm just going to piggyback on Damaris's point real quick, because we're rebuilding our Interact onboarding as a quiz, and it's exactly like you said. Like we're not going straight to like one particular template, or like you need this type of quiz or that type of quiz. It starts off with just one button that's like start making a quiz, and then it branches out a million times to get people to either build a quiz with AI or find the right template or start from scratch or whatever it is. And so I think that is a really key point of like the AI is good at that, like concept of taking a broad idea and turning it into something specific. So yes.
Love that. But yeah, so once we know, right, like this is what we want the AI to do. Like we know what we want the AI to do. And I think I mean, how long have we been doing this now? 3 months? Right?
Almost
Three?
6, no? January?
Has it already been 6 months?
Maybe
No.
not,
Yeah, I
maybe
think
not
it's been
customer
Close to
facing.
it.
Oh my God. Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, 6 months. I obviously don't know what month it is, but we've been doing this for so long. And I do remember myself feeling like just so confused and feeling like I was confused. The customer was confused in the beginning when we were doing this back and forth. And it did take so much longer to actually figure out like, okay, how do I get the right information in order to give them a quiz that they're really going to love? And then, I mean, thank God we kind of kept going with it, but I do remember feeling in the beginning like people were sort of confused as to, oh, you guys are saying this is AI, but why are you asking me all these questions? Like, I feel like you just pop it in and it should come out in minutes. But, I think over time we really pinpointed, okay, let's ask them like a minimum, like 3 to 6 questions, gather like super quick info from their website, and then now we can pop it out. And what is our turnaround time? Like 2 days, 48 hours. I think like I remember in the beginning I was taking like a week to do one quiz because I was doing so much research. I felt like I couldn't get enough info, so I would email, but then with like how long it takes people to email each other back, that could take even longer. Anyway, so as we've learned sort of, how to, I guess, continue to perfect this process, how do you ask the right questions so your product is the same quality every time?
You mean as far as like building the quiz or?
like your interaction with the customer and, you know, the information that you gather from them and like the process that we took to figure out like, okay, let's ask them these 3 questions. This is actually all we need to know. And then in terms of that, you know, okay, well, what, you know, kind of language do we use so they understand what we're saying? Because to us, we could say all the quiz terms in the world and we'd know what we're talking about, but not everybody will know that.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I can start. I think that after the first few months that we were making these quizzes, it was a struggle because we didn't really have the format set to ask the right questions to our customers, a very generic description box, and then you would just be able to type in whatever you thought you wanted to make your quiz about. Sometimes it wasn't anything that customers would type in. But last month, or when was it? Around, not Memorial Day weekend, I don't know when it was, in April, sometime in April, we came up with questions as a team between us, like what questions do we need in order to get started? Like what do we need from our customers? And that really helped us. Like it went from like 20% of not knowing anything from our customers to like, I would want to say maybe what, 80-85%, would you guys say? Like now it's so much easier because the questions that you guys reply with really gives us a good start of like, okay, this is what they're kind of looking for. This is your website's information. This is what you want your quiz to look like at the end. And when we ask you that question, that basically means those are going to be your results. So we try to come up with these questions to help us help you more efficiently. And at least personally, I think that's made it a lot easier for me to create the quizzes. I don't know what you guys think about.
I think that in our first like iteration of doing this, we were asking people for like outcomes, which is kind of like asking for like their like main persona types or like target audiences in a way. And we've completely removed that because we found that AI can identify what those like personas should be based on their products and services and like their about page on their website. So I think that's been a huge one because I think even when we're like doing the quiz creation process from scratch without AI, that was also always, you know, start with the result. But we started out asking these questions, and the number one question we asked them is like, what do you imagine for the results? Which is like the biggest question I feel like with quizzes. But now we've gotten to the point that we can eliminate that because AI does a really good job of finding out like what is like the target audience, who would be attracted to these products or not. And I think there's probably still times that we hand over these AI quizzes and people see the results and they're like, oh, like that's a really good like kind of persona for me that I may not have defined as well. So I think that's been a huge part that we removed that chunk of it.
Yeah. And I would just say that the prompts that we are using follow almost exactly the quiz creation process from our 5 weeks of coaching. So rather than you having to think through what is the, you know, main question that everyone's always asking you, or what is the key thing that you help people with, it's kind of funny. And I'm not calling anybody out here because I do the same thing. Like, try to hear me explain my own job. It gets a little rough sometimes. But like when on these coaching calls, when people would introduce each other or introduce themselves to each other, they would explain what it is that they do. But to just from that explanation, it was really hard to think of, oh gosh, what type of quiz are you going to use for this, right? And again, nothing against anybody because this would happen to me, but having AI pull that from your website without having to ask you that messaging, because you've already written it on your website or you've had it written for you on your website, it comes through almost perfectly. And then the reason AI writes such great quizzes, in addition to the fact that we're asking it the same things that we would ask you in real life, is because it's pulling the content that you've already written. So it's rephrasing things in a way that you would specifically say them, or like Jesy says, that would match the personas or the people within your audience and what it is that they would need based on the services or the offerings that you have. And so yeah, I would just say if you're using AI in your business and you're trying to come up with these prompts, talk to AI like you're talking to a customer and see if that helps you get through crafting the right prompts. They might not be perfect the first time, but you'll get them there. But really, it just follows a conversation that you would be having with a real person.
I love that.
I feel like AI doesn't, it's like you don't have to think of it in the way that like, oh my God, it's going to come up with like a new invention for me or a new product for me. Like that's not how you should use it. I think you should use it in a way to like streamline the things that you're already doing. Like what's step one in your client like process when you work with the client? What are the questions that you ask them? And just kind of use that with AI and see if you can kind of help brainstorm or, you know, move that along faster and save you time.
Yeah. It's almost like it's building an outline for you without you doing the thinking part of it or the strategy part of it, right?
Which is my favorite part, Damaris, because the outline is hard. Like we don't always know, especially if you've never made a quiz before, you don't always know what the outline is going to be, but you know exactly what it is that you want to tell your people. So that's what you're putting into AI, what it is that you know and what it is that your business does and what you want to explain to people or recommend to people, tell people. But AI does all the work in terms of putting it into the right format. But also our prompts do a really good job of allowing AI to do that. So we haven't said what the specific questions are, so I just want to say them in case people are wondering. But for me, the first thing I always ask is for AI, what's the questions that we're asking our customers are, what's your website? Do you have any quiz ideas already? And if so, or if not, where do you want to send your quiz takers with your leads after they finish taking the quiz? And from those three things, an idea, there's your title, or you can use AI to generate something else or something similar. Where you want to point people to after your quiz are your results. So we help you build those out based on where it is that you're sending people. And then once AI knows those two things, it knows exactly what questions it needs to ask to get people to the right result. So we're building out the questions and the answers that point people to the right place. And then it summarizes what the quiz is all about so that you have your description. That's your quiz.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Something that I was thinking about as you guys were speaking was like this idea that, and I feel like, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but like you become such an expert in your field that it's hard to just break it down to like, you know, simplicity, which is what a lead generation quiz kind of is, right? Like it's not going to cover every single part of everything you've ever, you know, said as an expert. And that's hard for a lot of people where it's like, okay, well, how do I take everything I know and put it into like a simple quiz just to get people in the door so that way I can give them all that knowledge. And I think like that's what's so great about the AI is like when you give it all that information, it can make it super simple and engaging at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing because like Damaris was saying, you want your quiz to be very broad, but day to day, what I would imagine most people listening are doing is very specific. Like, and especially I think social media really plays this up because if you're going to make a social post, it has to be about one very particular thing. Like, even the difference between trying to say three things in a post versus one thing, like the one thing is usually going to outperform because you want it to be hyper specific and like, 15 words that fits on top of an image. So then to go from that to, oh, what's a quiz that encompasses everybody that's coming to my business is a total like mindset shift. But I love going back to like the T in GPT, the transformer, because it's quite literally built to take your specific stuff, which is what you're thinking about day to day, and then transform that into something broad. And so it bridges that gap that I think was actually like it was like the canyon that everyone was falling into trying to build quizzes before was like, I can see the other side. I can see how like, oh, I need to go from what I'm thinking about day to day to building this quiz, but I fall in the canyon. I don't get there. And you guys have all seen this, like customers that started building quizzes 5, 7, 10 years ago, and they're still in the canyon. But now the canyon has a bridge over it. It's like the GPT bridge. It's like we have this bridge where it's like, just tell us all the specific stuff, all the stuff that's top of mind right now, today. And then the AI will transform that into a really solid quiz that's general.
Yeah. Will help you build the bridge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in terms of also like if you are using it for your own business, for those who are listening, like it kind of takes away. I mean, a lot of service providers are like providing a service, right? That like their clients either don't know how to do themselves or don't want to do themselves because of, maybe it's time, maybe it's knowledge, etc. And like for us, I think you know, a lot of our challenges always were brought back to like, well, a lot of people either don't know how to create a quiz or they don't have the time to like look deep into their business and create a quiz. And what you're doing with the AI when you use it as a tool for your services is you're eliminating that whole process, right? Like you're eliminating anybody having to think too hard about it, and you're able to help more people and hopefully profit off of that faster than if you were to take a month long to work with one client who was like, well, I needed this done yesterday, but I need it done. And that kind of puts all your eggs in a basket. And I remember when I was interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs for their business, one of the most common things that I heard was, I have had projects fall through when I was already working with somebody because of so many different reasons, right? Like either like they weren't really clicking personality wise, the client was asking for too much or too little. But this is kind of a way to sort of eliminate the time that it would take for you to actually like look deep into someone's business. Now you can pop it into AI, use it as a tool for your services, and then get through it faster.
Yeah. As we were thinking about the next step of our AI, because right now all of you all and our team are prompting customers to ask you all like, oh, what does your business do? And like Jackie was saying, right, the next phase is to automate that and turn it into something where you can just answer questions in an automated way, like a quiz, and then it generates the quiz for you with the AI. And as we're starting to think about that, and all of us are involved in that now because we're figuring out the questions to ask, the number one thing that we keep going back to is, how do we prevent thinking? Because as soon as you have a thinking threshold, you've lost. Sometimes, I mean, honestly, for us, sometimes we lose like 80% of people the second you have to think. And like I mentioned, like the 5-10 years, sometimes thinking takes 10 years. Like the next time that I have in my calendar think is 10 years from now. And if you make somebody do that, then you're going to lose them. You're going to lose that client. You're going to lose that project. So I think that's a really good mindset to think about it through, of like, how can I remove the thinking roadblocks for my client so that they don't have to do any thinking? And I think the framework there is like, what are the questions that they already know the answers to? Meaning, what are they already thinking about all day long? Like, what are the things that they've already thought about? What information can I get there? And then I can use the AI, I can write a prompt and say, here's the information, transform this information into something else.
I love that. Something that I also wanted to note that I totally forgot as Jessy was speaking earlier, when you were kind of saying like, we originally thought that if we ask this question and pop it in the AI, it would do this and that. And then over time, we learned that we don't really need to do that. I think what I wanted to note from there was that when you use AI as a service in your business, it's like everything else, it's trial and error. You have to actually kind of go through the process and go through the hardships before you really figure it out. And you're like, all right, this is it. Like, this is going to get me where I need to go. And then you'll learn more about AI in the process, and you'll learn more about your customers in the process, and kind of do what Josh was just saying. Like, you'll figure out like, okay, what are they already thinking about? And that's the question that I'm going to ask. Okay, now how do I translate that into, a prompt that I can put into the AI so that way I could get this product out faster? Any last minute thoughts on prompts, talking to your customers, understanding your customers, before I ask this last question, which I feel like is a big one?
Well, I was just going to chime in on prompts. Prompts are, I think, extremely simple. You just say, the customer told me this, I need to change that into a different format. Here's the format I need to change it into. I think don't buy into the people that try to sell you prompts. It's a bunch of whatever crap. It's just like, it's just people trying to sell you on stuff that's useless. Literally, it's just like, figure out what information the customer can give you, and then just tell the AI, change that information into this information, and then tell it how to output it. And that's all our prompts do anyways.
Right. I love that.
And all of these, just a reminder, all of the prompts are in our blog post, how to create a quiz with AI. So if you wanted to look at them in the format that we're telling AI to put things out in, you can check it out in the blog.
Love it. So I think this question may be a little bit controversial, but I guess like I'm just curious to hear what you guys think. I know we already do this, but for those who are listening, like, should you disclose that you use an AI to provide services? Why or why not? No right answer. I'm just like, I think, at least for me, you know, ever since AI kind of blew up in the last, you know, few months, there's like kind of two sides to it of like, no, don't use it. It's horrible. It's terrible. And then also the other side of it, which is like, yes, it's great. Lean into it. It's here to stay. But, and there's all like, like I said earlier, like we talk a lot about like how to use AI. But if you're using it as a service, it's like, should you tell your clients and customers, like, yes, I am using an AI?
So I'll jump in because I just had a conversation with a founder friend last week, and he was hiring somebody and wasn't sure if that person was using ChatGPT. And it was really off-putting. They ended up having a good conversation about it, all good. But then there's also the point that Google has, which is like, we don't care as long as we can't tell it it's AI. I just feel like it's the same as everything, in my opinion. It's the same as everything, where it's like, it is all about like human connections and relationships. And like, if this is going to cause a break in a human connection, like you use ChatGPT as part of your job interview and didn't disclose that, I think that's pretty like blatant, where it's like, that's a breach of trust, because like you are relying on this person to do work. And if that work wasn't actually produced by them, it was, they prompted ChatGPT to do it. Although if they had disclosed that and said, hey, is it okay if I use this because I'm really good at it and I think it's actually going to be useful in my job? Excellent. I guess that's my like main takeaway right now is like, hey, I'm really good at using ChatGPT. Do you mind if I try it out, and then you can see if you like it, like see the output and see if it works for you. And if that works, right, then I think that's great, and that makes everybody's life better. I think if you're like selling something as if you wrote it and then using AI to write it, I think it's a breach of trust. And so I just feel like it goes back to like all the basic human principles of the relationship, where it's like, are you disclosing what you're doing? And if not, then it's a problem. Just like everything else in life, it's like you could say the same thing of like, oh, I'm using a tool for this or that or the other thing. Like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say it depends. I know everybody hates that answer, but like with AI, with Interact AI, with making your quizzes, we do disclose it because it's a feature that will be available for you. Therefore, you should be aware that this is how it would be built. But we use it also to write blogs. I use it to put descriptions on YouTube videos that we're making, and I don't disclose that anywhere. And so I like what you said, Josh, around the fact of, is the quality going to be there? Is the work going to meet the standard of work that you should be delivering? And you said this way better, but like, will it bother the person that you're working with if you're using AI or not? So disclose it. I don't think it should be hidden for any specific reason. But I also don't think that you need to put stamps like, this is from AI. I've used ChatGPT in order to write this blog or these descriptions either.
I also think there's a distinct difference, and I think you guys have all seen this now too. There is a distinct difference if you just go to ChatGPT and say, make this, versus you put in the work and ask the client for information that's written in their words, and then you use ChatGPT or AI to transform those words into something else. I don't even know that like I fully consider the second one to be AI, it's more like a tool. It is an AI tool, but like you have to go and talk to the person in order to make that work versus just going straight to the AI and say, hey, make this thing. I think those are like just actually different classifications.
And I also think that's where the quality comes from. If you're talking to your customers and your clients and you're getting their words or their information and you're using that in your prompts or within AI, then you're going to get a way higher quality output than if you were to just say, do this thing for this client.
Right. Which kind of goes back to like, if you're trying to use this to circumvent the difficulty of having to deal with people, it's not going to work.
Don't work with
you
people.
Still have to deal with people. Like that's the crux of it, is like, if you want the AI to be effective, you still have to show up and deal with other people and deal with the good parts and the hard parts of dealing with humans. And if you're trying to use it to get around that, I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I agree. I think when I first like started using AI here, because I've heard of it, but I never really like was hands-on, like, oh, let me actually use the AI tool, you know? I was a little scared of it, to be quite honest, because of everybody saying, oh, it's going to take over the world and human communication, and I'm not going to be able to communicate, whatever it was. But I think I agree with what you guys are saying. Like, AI is a tool. AI does not provide the human touch, doesn't provide the customer service aspect, doesn't provide the empathy part, the, you know, being there for your customers, just basic human needs. It doesn't do that. It's a robot, it's a computer, you know, it just works for certain projects, as Jessmyn was saying, or certain things that you're trying to launch. And I think it's perfectly fine if you tell your customers, hey, I'm going to use AI tool, but we're still going to be dealing with each other to try to strategize or work around whatever you are trying to accomplish. Or if you don't want to do that, I mean, that's entirely up to you. But then you have to ask yourself, am I being dishonest, or are you in my like borderline gray line sort of area? Is this the right thing to do or not for my client? Right. So that's kind of my take on it.
If you feel sketchy using it, you
You're
should
probably
probably disclose. You should probably disclose that you're using it.
If it doesn't feel right in your gut, you're probably not doing it for the right reason.
Yeah. And it's just like anything, right? It's like, that's, you know, if you're like hanging out with a friend and you're like, oh, you did something and it doesn't feel quite right to me, I want to have a conversation about it. Cool, have the conversation. It makes the relationship stronger. It's just like that. It's like, you kind of know. I think people know.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can definitely differentiate. Like for me, for example, because I deal with chat and like emailing customers, I think they would completely know if I start using like AI to respond to them. They're going to be like, what the heck is wrong with this girl? Why is she sounding so proper? Or whatever it is, however the AI tool spits out, you know, because it does sound very proper. It's very proper. I don't know, you would say English, right? The AI tool, the way it spits out certain things. So people will probably be like, what are you saying? Like, what, can you just speak to me like a normal person would, right? That's what I would probably react to if I was them. So, you know.
I've seen it. So I manage our affiliate program and I get the applications, and there's a couple of questions within the application that people have to fill out, like, what's your promotion strategy? And there's another one, I can't remember what it is now. Why do you want to promote Interact? That's what it is. And a couple of times now I've gotten these answers that are like this long, like usually they're a sentence or two, but they're like this long. There's no formatting to them, like no bullet points of like breaking out the different sections or anything. Like, just I was reading one today. All of the promotion strategies were very broad, general marketing, digital marketing, email marketing. Like, I can't remember if I approved this person for the program or not. And it's not that I didn't approve them, because they definitely used ChatGPT to fill out that application, right? But it was that they didn't spend any time putting any personal effort into that. It was like literally, you could just tell, copied and pasted from ChatGPT. And that's not necessarily the type of partner that we're looking to work with. If they're willing to just, you know, copy and paste, did they even reread it? I'm not sure. And so for those reasons, I would say maybe in that case, you know, hey, English isn't my first language, so I use ChatGPT to say these things. or something like that, it would become like no problem that you used, like Josh was saying earlier with the resume, the person interviewing, no problem at all. But the fact that it wasn't touched, it was simply copied and pasted. It was like, let me just do this to like submit the application because I just want it to be over with kind of thing, wasn't the right fit of persona that we were looking for. So just consider, what are you using AI for? Who are you working with? And like, I guess who's involved with you using it, right? Any stakeholders that you're working with, and just figure out the best way to use it, but it's not going to replace the task or the job that you have to do.
Just like any other tool that you use, it's just meant to make your life easier. And
I
that's the
think
whole
that's
idea.
I think it's like everyone uses like templates. Like if you're a copywriter, you probably have like a basic core template that you use for sales pages. And clients that come to you may or may not know that, but I'm assuming most people know that there's a basic flow and like structure. And if you just hand that template over, super basic, they're probably not going to be very happy with it. But if you go in and fill in and customize each section of that template, that's fine. So I feel like you should use ChatGPT to help fill in a draft or fill in the parts of your template, but you can't just hand the template over as is.
Yeah. And I think I'll just throw myself under the bus. When I write, it's not my writing. Like everything we know about writing is from like Ogilvy, and before Ogilvy is from Confucius. Like this stuff is like not new. We're literally just adapting things that already existed. But I think the part that is unique that I do is like inject my own stories into things, my own experience, my own, times that I've talked to customers and things that I learned from dealing with other humans. And I think that is very unique, and you can tell. I think that's what I'm synopsizing from what we've all said, is like you can tell if there's a human element to this and you actually talk to a person before going to the AI, or if you just went straight to the AI.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for answering all my questions and joining me today. I believe we said we were going to link a few things in the show notes today, which the blog post with the prompts on it. What did I say before we hit record? Oh God, what was it? Was that it?
I'll go back and listen to it. We'll see.
It's not recorded.
Yeah, it wasn't recorded. We will link. We are going to link very helpful information for you guys in regards to sort of like, how to use ChatGPT for your own business. But hopefully this episode helps you really understand like the human connection part of it, and making sure that you keep that as, the main element for what you do in your business, how you help people transform.
Yeah. Can I just add real quick, for anybody who hasn't submitted through Interact AI or requested a quiz, just know that you are not actually using ChatGPT or any version of AI right now. All you are doing is talking to us, and we're building out this AI function. So we do all of that on our end. But I think if you submit a request and you give us that little bit of terminology or just your website or maybe quiz ideas that you've been thinking about for a while, you'll be able to see how your words and your expertise get included into the standard template of how we're building this quiz out. It's going to be very specific to your business, but at the same time, it keeps things broad and general so that you can move people through your funnel like a quiz should.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao.